Each person, whether rich or poor, lonely or fulfilled, carries within them a sense of origin, a starting point, a piece of land they may have once set foot on, or that may exist only in their memory. A homeland, a family, a place one calls where I truly belong. But life isn't always that clear. Dieuhan, that young girl, had just turned 16. At an age when most are still dreaming with their schoolbooks, still lost in the melodies of teenage songs, Han was already a mother, a true single mother. On her small shoulders rested an entire world of hardship. Each day was a battle not just for her own life, but for her little son, Tom, barely more than a year old. Han raised her child with everything she had, not with money or possessions, but with something far more precious: her calloused hands, a heart that had grown far beyond her years, and a strength most wouldn't believe a girl her age could possess. Every day, Han went to the town market before dawn. Sometimes, the sky was still dark and the morning mist had yet to lift. Little Tom didn't understand much, but he was a good baby. He only called out, "Mama," when he was hungry, when he was cold, or simply when he wanted to be held. Amid the bustling noise of the market, that innocent cry of "Mama" was so pure, so tender. It squeezed the hearts of those who heard it. But there was something no one knew, a quiet fire that never stopped burning in Han's heart, a wound that never healed. Who are my parents? That question had echoed in her mind for years. Every time she looked at Tom, every time she heard someone talk about their family, a wave of emptiness and longing would rise inside her. She had never seen her father's face, never once heard her birth mother's lullaby. No letters, no clear birth certificate. All she had were fragmented stories, faint memories from people who once knew, or had merely heard of, her mother. Like passing breezes, like ghostly silhouettes in dreams, they drifted through her mind, so fragile, so cruel in their elusiveness. The next morning, without hesitation, Han packed her things, held Tom close, and went to an old lodging house on the outskirts of town. There she met Uncle Hawa, a middle-aged man with a weathered face, hunched over, slowly fixing a worn-out bicycle with patient, gentle hands. Han asked softly, "Uncle Hawa, do you remember my parents? I heard you used to be close to them." Uncle Hawa furrowed his brows, deep in thought, as if trying to dig up an old memory. Let me think. I believe your parents used to live in Vinlong." "Yes, that's right, Vinlong. But then they disappeared. I don't really know what happened after that." Vinlong. A name that felt strange and distant, but to Han, it was the first glimmer of light in the dark fog of memory. It could be a dead end, or it could be a bigger question mark. But if she didn't go, if she didn't search, if she didn't walk toward it, her heart would never be at peace. Han made her decision. She would go. She didn't know what awaited her. She didn't know if anyone was waiting, or if it would all be for nothing. But she believed even a small chance was worth risking everything. With the little money saved after countless days and nights of struggling, Dieuhan carefully packed everything into an old cloth bag. She chose the cheapest bus, a worn-out, rattling vehicle that ran overnight from the outskirts to Vinlong. She didn't know exactly where she was going, nor was she sure if anyone there still remembered her. All Han had was a single clue, an old, faded photo, edges frayed and torn, the image blurred by time. In that photo was her biological father in middle age. The bus rolled slowly, crossing endless stretches of fields. Tom slept soundly on his mother's shoulder, his soft breath brushing lightly against her neck. One arm Han held her son close, the other tightly gripping the photo, as if clutching the last fragile hope left in her life. Finally, the bus stopped at Vinlong's station, a small town in the Mekong Delta with a slow, peaceful rhythm of life. Dieuhan stepped off the bus, holding Tom tightly, her eyes scanning the hurried flow of people passing by. She began to walk. Each street, each alley, each small neighborhood shaded by coconut trees and bougainvillea flowers. She stopped at eateries with elderly patrons, at street vendors' stalls, at old men sitting on house porches. Each time, she gently opened her bag, took out the photo, and showed it to them with a hopeful, quiet voice. "Uncle, Auntie, have you ever seen the person in this photo?" They looked, they frowned, they shook their heads. Some smiled softly, some looked uneasy. Some answered only with a distant gaze, saying nothing more. The early rejections left Han feeling crushed, but gradually she learned to accept them. With every no, she bowed her head slightly, thanked them, and moved on. Day after day, the sun rose and set. Tom was still cradled in his mother's arms or carried on her back. Sometimes he had a mild fever. Sometimes he cried in the midday heat. But Han never stopped moving. She would not allow herself to give up. After many days wandering in a strange land, with aching feet and eyes dry from crying, Dieuhan paused by an old river embankment. It was there, while resting under the worn-out porch of a middle-aged woman, that the woman saw the photo Han showed her and whispered, "I think Uncle Chin, who lives at the end of that row of houses, used to be very close to someone named Hung. I'm not sure, but you should try to find him." Han, holding Tom tightly, nervously walked toward the small house deep in the alley. She stood still for a moment, then gently knocked on the door. The wooden door opened to reveal a man around 70 years old, his face weathered, but his eyes still kind. Han timidly said, "Hello, Uncle. My name is Dieuhan. I am looking for my biological parents." She took out the old photo from her cloth bag, its edges worn thin from time and tears. "This is all I have. I heard my father's name was Hung. Do you know anyone by that name?" Uncle Chin was startled. His hand trembled as he took the photo. His eyes lingered on it for a long, long time. Then he murmurs to himself, "Oh my God, this looks just like Hung. Just like my old friend Hung." He sighed deeply, his gaze suddenly distant. "Wait here a moment. Let me check something." Uncle Chin turned and walked inside. He opened an old wooden cabinet, faded by time, and searched for a photo yellowed and folded in half, the paper brittle as if ready to tear. "Look at this," he said, handing the photo to Han. In the picture was a small girl about 2 years old, sitting on a man's lap. She had gently curled hair, bright eyes, and a small scar on her left hand. Uncle Chin's voice choked with emotion. "Your father once left this photo with me. He said that if one day you returned, if some miracle brought you here, please give this photo back to you. You were very little back then. I remember once you fell in the front yard and got a scratch. There's a scar on your left hand." He stared intently at Han's hand. "Do you still have the scar?" Han fell silent. She looked down at her left hand. At the base of her index finger, a small faded scar was still clearly visible. She hugged Tom tightly to her chest and burst into tears. Tears poured down her cheeks, uncontrollable. She sobbed, "Yes, that scar is still real." Uncle Chin sat down and in a calm voice told a story he had kept hidden for many years. "Later, your parents moved south to live. They sent letters, photos, but then something happened. From one day on, I lost contact. I don't know where they are now, but I kept an old address, the last place they sent a letter from. Han's voice trembled, but her eyes were full of determination. Thank you, Uncle. I truly thank you. I will find my parents. Uncle Chin nodded softly. Yes, I believe you will find them. That day, Han stayed at a close friend's house near Uncle Chin's area. She paused her journey for a few days, waiting to hear from someone who might know where her parents once lived. For the first time in her life, she felt she had stepped closer to the answer. After so many days of weary waiting, Dieuhan still hadn't received any news about her biological parents. Early that morning, while the dew still clung to the trees and the streets were yet to awaken, Dieuhan carried Tom in her arms and held a small bag, deciding to return to Uncle Chin's house. Not to seek more answers, but simply to say a heartfelt thank you. The gate was still old, still creaked whenever pushed open. Uncle Chin sat quietly on a wooden chair on the porch, his figure calm, as if waiting for something. With a choked voice and tears in her eyes, Hun said, I came back to thank you. What you told me, what you kept for me, that's all I have of my past. She bowed her head, genuinely moved. If one day I receive any news about my parents, I promise I will come back right away. Uncle Chin stood up, holding a carefully folded piece of paper. The paper was yellowed with age, but the handwriting remained clear. Handing her the paper, Uncle Chin's eyes gazed into the distance as he said, This is the old address where your parents used to send letters to me, somewhere in the south. I'm not sure if they still live there, but if you have the courage, keep going. Maybe they're also longing to find you. Without another word, Han nodded and clenched the paper tightly in her hand. Tom hugged his mother's neck, his clear eyes looking ahead as if he understood that she had just received a small ray of hope. Hun held Tom close, stepping slowly along the red dirt road leading to the highway. But inside her heart, there was something calm and bright, like a little light just lit in the midst of the deep darkness. She did not know what lay ahead. Did her parents still live? Were they waiting? Or had they quietly gone forever? She also didn't know if the old address in her hand would lead her to where she needed to go, or just another dead end in her interrupted childhood journey. But she knew one thing. For the first time in her life, she no longer felt alone. Because now she had a place to start again, a place she once belonged to, and perhaps was still waiting for her to come back. Tom stirred slightly in his mother's arms, sleeping peacefully, as if the whole world were calm. Hun looked up at the darkening evening sky and silently told herself, No matter what the truth is, no matter who my parents are, I will go all the way. Not to blame the past, but to love it fully, just as I am holding my child now.
Không nói thêm lời nào, Hân gật đầu, siết chặt mảnh giấy trong tay, tay ôm tôm, đôi mắt trong veo nhìn về phía trước như thể chính em cũng hiểu mẹ vừa nhận được một tia sáng. Hân ôm tôm bước từng bước chậm rãi trên con đường đất dẫn ra quốc lộ, nhưng trong tim Hân lúc này lại là một điều đó thật lặng, thật sáng như một ngọn đèn nhỏ vừa được thắp lên giữa bóng tối mịt mù. Cô không biết phía trước có gì, không biết cha mẹ mình có còn sống, có đang chờ đợi hay đã lặng lẽ rời xa mãi mãi. Cô cũng không biết tấm địa chỉ cũ trong tay có dẫn mình tới nơi cần đến hay chỉ là một ngõ cụt. nữa trong hành trình tuổi thơ bỏ dở. Nhưng cô biết một điều, lần đầu tiên trong đời, cô không còn thấy mình đơn độc, vì giờ đây cô đã có một nơi để bắt đầu lại, một nơi từng thuộc về và có lẽ vẫn đang đợi cô quay về. Tôm khẽ cựa mình trong vòng tay mẹ, ngoan ngoãn như thể cả thế giới đều đang yên bình. Hân ngẩng lên bầu trời, chiều sẫm màu và tự nhủ, dù có sự thật là gì, dù cho cha mẹ mình là ai, thì mình cũng sẽ đi đến cuối cùng, không phải để trách móc quá khứ, mà chỉ để yêu thương nó và đủ đầy như cách mình đang ôm lấy con mình bây giờ.